In today's lesson, we'll be learning about the x-intercept with a focus on equations. In a previous lesson, we learned how to find the x-intercept when given a table of values or a graph. In a table of values, when y is 0, the value of x is the x-intercept. Therefore, the x-intercept here is positive 1. In a graph, the x-intercept occurs when your line intercepts the x-axis. Therefore, the x-intercept here would be positive 1. But what if you weren't given a table of values or a graph? Would you be able to find the x-intercept? You most definitely can, and you can do that if you have an equation of a line. Both of these equations are the same. They represent the table of values and the graph you just saw earlier. Let's say I want to find the x-intercept of this line, but I'm not given its table of values or its graph. What you can do is sub y is equal to 0 and solve for x. Well, what does that mean exactly? We are going to replace the variable of y with the number 0. So over here, y is going to be replaced with the number 0. Everything else stays exactly the same. At this point, you want to look for like terms. Both 0 and -5 are like terms. Like terms like to be together, which means you can move the 0 over to be with the -5, or you can move the -5 over to be with the 0. Remember, generally speaking, you want to keep numbers and variables on separate sides of the equation. So that means I'm going to move the -5 over to be with the 0. Now, when you bring a term over the equal sign, it is no longer the same. It becomes the opposite. So this is no longer -5, it now becomes positive 5. The 5x stays exactly the same. Next, we can simplify 0 plus 5. That just becomes 5, and the 5x stays the same. At this point, we're going to divide both sides of our equation by 5, because the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And what you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side of an equation. These 5's are going to cancel out. The x stays the same. 5 divided by 5 becomes positive 1. Therefore, the x-intercept is positive 1. You can find the y-intercept with a very similar technique. You can either just look at the equation in slope-intercept form and tell me that the y-intercept is going to be -5, or you can sub x is equal to 0 and solve for y. But what exactly does that mean? That means we can replace the variable of x with the number 0. As you can see, everything stays exactly the same except I'm replacing that variable with the number 0. Now this looks a little bit strange. This looks like the number 50. This is actually 5 times 0. Using BEDMAS, you'll want to multiply before subtracting. Therefore, 5 times 0 is 0. Then subtract 5 stays exactly the same. And 0 subtract 5 is -5. Therefore, the y-intercept is -5.